all, Delusions of Hope back. Gonna bring you a second video to my channel tonight, and this one's gonna be from my favorite collectible card game, and that's Infinity Wars. For those of you who don't know what Infinity Wars is, I'm sure Hearthstone is probably gonna bring more traffic to my channel than Infinity Wars is. It's a card game created by Lightmare Studios, and if you are looking for something, I would say more challenging than Hearthstone. I would give Infinity Wars a look. It's the game that I've enjoyed a lot. I've talked strategy. I hang out here all the time, talk shop with people, but it's the one that I've enjoyed out of all the card games recently that I've been playing. So, other than my own, of course, nudge nudge. But I decided to bring you a quick deck tech about a deck that I've been tinkering with. I saw someone post this deck list a while ago, and I really liked it, so I decided to tinker with it and kind of make it my own. So let's go ahead and get started. And I do call it Rise of the Drones, and you'll see why. For the first commander, I run Agent Coil Zomborg. He's a 2-caster, 4/4 that every turn he's on the battlefield, he evolves into a stronger form of himself. And I think it's by like turn 6 or 7, he turns into a 20 some flying dragon. Um, More times than not, I'll play him on turn 2 and just let him evolve while I let like when I let the battlefield develop. I do bounce between him and this might be for you that don't have him as a cheaper option to run Bloodthirsty Dead, because he's a 2-caster 4/4 with Bloodthirst 4. That means he becomes an 8/8 when in combat with another creature. So he's a good blocker if you're playing against Flame Dawn or even Exiles. Exiles is a pretty aggro heavy deck anymore. At least in the minute that I've played, Exile seems to rush pretty hard, so he's good for early trumpage. But I like the Zomborg more just because I can put him in my commands and just kind of forget about him as long as the enemy doesn't really want to mess with him. He's a threat that they have to deal with, or else he gets out of hand pretty quickly. The one Genesis Industries commander that I do run is Alita the Mortal Searcher. She's a 6/16 for 5, and the reason I run her is because you pay 3 and draw a card. I mean, that in itself is really good. With the kind of deck that I have, I really didn't find any other Genesis Industry commanders. I've tried Luca, I've tried a couple others, Splitterbot, but I've found her to be the most potent because this deck can be very aggro heavy and you can dump your hand pretty quick. So instead of using the trading post to pay 5, you can pay 3 to draw to draw another unending drone and play it that turn. The third commander I run is Infected Pack Leader, and he's pretty much just in there to slow the bleed from any rush decks as well. Because the bad thing about this deck is it is very susceptible to early rush, so you've got to deal with the early rush game, which I've got a couple answers in here as well. So, but he's in there to stop. He can stop 2, sometimes 3 creatures in his own right on turn 3. So he's pretty good. So let's go ahead and get started with the backbone of the deck. I do run 3 Decrepit Crystals. It's a Sleeper's Artifact for 5. Then whenever a character you control is returned to play from the graveyard, it gains +2/+2. So I do bounce back and forth between 2 and 3, but I found 3 to be pretty consistent. Sometimes once I start getting the lock off, or start getting, I don't want to call it a soft lock, but the combo, I like, getting 2 into play is pretty good. And it's a little bit less fragile than the next guy I'm getting ready to show you, which is Infested Scavenger. He's a 4-caster 4/4. And when a character is raised from the graveyard under your control, it gains 2/2 and becomes artificial. He's the other cornerstone to the combo. So you get a couple of him and a couple of the crystals out, and which we'll get to the card here in a minute. Unending drones become very big very quickly. I do run 3 Fill the Graves, and this is pretty much just to get more unending drones into the graveyard for 2. So if they decide to snipe my Zomborg off on turn 1 or 2, turn 1 usually with Exorcism for Roar, I'll play a Fill the Graves instead of a unending drone just to get the graveyard started filled with them. Luca. Just in case if I can't draw any of my reanimation, just swarming the board with unending drones and then playing Luca can be pretty good. You just chop block with unending drones until you get her out, and then just swarm them and win. So I do run two of her. Um, she's really good with, like I said, with all the unending drones you use. So like I said, I've used to run her in command, but I found the Immortal Searcher to be a better card for a late game because I've already got two early game cards in the command zone. I like to have a late game card there, and she just works so well. Here's the workhorse of the deck, Unending Drone. It's a two caster 2/2 that at the start of your turn, if Unending Drone is in play, it'll raise another one from the graveyard if there is one. So say you like fill the graves and get two in the graveyard, and you got two in play, it'll raise the other two, and that's where Infected Scavenger and Decrepit Crystal come into play. They come back as, depending on how many you have, 4/4, 6/6s, 8/8s. So you can clog the board pretty well with it until you get more and more into play to where you get to the point where you win the war of attrition and you can just finally swarm for the win. I do run three fears. Um, and this is simply just a pure defensive spell to just so you can set up your board. That you don't have a lot of ways to deal with big creatures, and this is one way that if you've got to buy that turn to get all your drones active, it's a good way to do it. So my friend's trying to trade me, so I'm gonna finish this video up real quick, and then I'll trade him off video. So Splitterbot is a forecaster 10/10. He's probably one of the most efficient creatures, if not the most efficient creature in the game, because when he dies, he creates 2/5/5 artificial constructs, so it's 20/20 for 4. So he's just a really good creature, very efficient for a 4 job. And I do have a little fun with the little combo in here, and that's first part of it's Undead Corruption. Target creature an opponent controls becomes undead if that character dies. It comes into play under your control. So even the second part of the combo aside, this is really good because you put it on one of their big things and you just block with one of your 8/8 drones or with the splitter bot, and you get their creature. So it does have its uses outside, but it works so well with this card right here, Zombie Gone. It says destroy target undead creature in a combat zone and both characters adjacent to it. So what you'll do is you'll turn one of their creatures into an undead, and then you play this on it, and it kills it and the two creatures, whether they're undead or not. That doesn't matter. It kills them. Now this card is actually decent on its own right too, because there's a lot of stuff in these new sets that if it dies, it comes back as an undead, so it can still serve as a removal regardless if you have undead corruption or not. Plus, with the trading post, you can always shuffle it away if you don't need to use it. So that's the deck. Like I said, I've played it in casual a little bit. It's more for fun than anything else. So if you're just looking for something different, and so the deck's not all that bad to make. You only really need the two decrepit crystals are really the only rares in the deck. So hope you guys enjoyed the deck tech. If you got any questions, Delusions of Hope is my in-game name for Infinity Wars. I'm always more than happy to help anybody out that's got any questions or comments or just wants to play some Infinity Wars. So you guys take care, and we'll see you on the battlefield.